It looks like Boys Planet is soon coming to an end. With this final elimination episode, the boys went on a spring camping mission for some R&R, well, sort of. 10 boys were eliminated, bringing the final number down to 18, or 2 teams of 9, for the final mission, which details are given and revealed for the next week's finale. Now, I won't spend much time on the recap, since I feel like most of the funny or sentimental moments are they're best experienced by watching the show. But the show basically starts with a short trip home for some kind of like March break, and then the boys return, and the show continues again with the first elimination section with Jeon Somi as the Star Master. If you guys remember her, she was on 16. When it comes to eliminations, only 4 out of the top 18 were announced in groups Switch and then on guard before there was an intermission for spring camping. And this is where the boys played some minigames for relaxation perks, and it was pretty funny. And there was also some sussy moments. But after that, we did continue with eliminations, and there were some interesting placements. In the top 18, there were really only 6 people I'd personally like to see debut. And in the top 9, well, there's Ji-woong, and he's always pretty much been my top guy. Now, surprisingly, Hiroto, also one of my top 9 from the very beginning, he gained some spots, but not enough to survive. So jumping up 8 didn't help him because he needed to be in 18th. He stopped at 20. But in terms of the 18th spot, I did have 3 predictions, including Haruto, Seo-wan, or Na Kam-den. And only Na Kam-den was in the selection of 4 that were there, and Kam-den actually won the spot. The whole Supercharger team, they basically died, which I thought was kind of uncool. Now, if I were to pinpoint the worst motivation for voters, even worse than the hormone voters, regional voters, or even revenge voters, it would be the ones who vote on whatever Mnet favors. You know, the network shills. But I guess there's nothing you can really do about stuff like that. I think we're kind of past the point of me complaining about the voting practices of the live voters and the global voters. The final 18 were as follows. So looking at this, they tried to make a big suspenseful thing about Hanbin being toppled, but Hanbin had like basically a 1 million point lead on Zhang Hao, and that's after the point benefit. So it wasn't really close or anything, it was just for like television effect. Now Zhang Hao, on the other hand, he's been playing the game very smart. He's been camera mindful, and I feel like behind the scenes he's been building up this BFF story with these gifted massages, these random hugs and whatnot with Sung Han Bin. And, you know, everyone knows that Sung Han Bin, he's basically the show's anchor at this point, and you basically can't go against him or you risk retaliation from his voting base. Now, just look at how much Matthew fell after several weeks of drama in opposition to Han Bin, as someone who is just seen as undermining his leadership and losing his BFF status. Ji-woong, he rose again, and also I feel like he's been doing the congeniality thing lately. You know, he's helping his bros cook food, supporting people being first, being nice, etc. But maybe I feel like people at home are starting to notice, and that's why he's moved up again. But, you know, I've said this before. I think Ji-woong, he has more power as a single pick than like a secondary or third pick. And if people have less options for their final vote, he's going to do better. Now, Kim Tae-rae, he's risen rather high for the hormone vote, and he basically supplanted Jay and Leo Tech for the vocal guy, but I'm surprised he got as far as he did, given he went under the radar for his dance ability, though I guess he learned under fire in the last mission, and maybe the voters who vote for him don't really think it's a big deal. Now, Ricky, he's like the silent assassin here. He's basically just slipped into the top 9, and there's no opinions, positive or negative, about it, which is really exceptional, actually. Now, Park Han-bin, on the other hand, his rise couldn't be more deserved. He helps people learn things quickly, he learns things very quickly on his own, and I feel like he's the Kim Min-sung of this part of the competition. This is who I thought Kim Min-sung would be, and I'm glad to see Park Han-bin is doing well and rising because of merit. But, you know, I feel like his rising because of merit is at the sacrifice of other being eliminated, and him picking up those votes from people who want to kind of almost get a revenge vote. Now, Park Gun-wook's drop is concerning. but I think he's losing the sense of mystery after being showcased so often as being undermined on what is his prime X factor, which is the roguish bad guy looks. And in this show, they've made him a princess, they've made him pranked by his peers, they have him crying on letters and being besties with Kim Jong Hyun and just being more seen as cute by people rather than as scary. And then, doing everything to kill his main source of appeal, I feel like, which is being a mysterious anti-hero. But I guess he's just too young to do that right now. But in many ways, the appeal of him early on really got supplanted by Ricky. But he did pick up a new voting base when people had the second or third pick. But I feel like in terms of his first pick, he may be losing those people. Now, Jay, he deserves better for having overcome issues early and just delivering constantly. I think the most negative things associated with him were either, I don't know if you can call it sabotage or just bad choices on the production side, but his vocals really should have more opportunities, which is why it's kind of a shame that later on in the show he gets knocked out of his main vocal position by Sung Han Bin. I heard some boys are getting support ads from their entertainment companies, and I think that's nice. I think it was Yu Sung Eun is especially being seen around town. While I don't like the top 9, I know that there are enough members here to make a good number of non-Kepler type groups. Non-boy Kepler groups. Similar to what happened with Girls Planet, that TV show, it spawned groups like ILY1, who have like a perfect discography so far. It revived Cherry Bullet and their activity. Yurina, Yenny, Hyrim, and Surichi all went solo. And there's 5 more girl groups getting Girls Planet members like Lapulus, Billy, Limelight, Triple S. And then some people from Kepler are actually going to be moving to like Limelight, for example. And so there are many more also in non-musical things like just acting, hosting, or even just being an influencer, but still a part of the entertainment company. And I can see many of these boys being similarly lucrative to be included in either debuts or like other avenues. But I think like for some of them, they definitely just want to be in this kind of category, which is singing and dancing and performing in a group. And I feel like as far as those spin-off groups go, they're probably going to be more interesting to me than Boy Kepler. It may also be that Boy Kepler flops in their discography, and after their contract is up, the respective companies just end up re-debuting them in other groups, just like they did with, just like they will do with Kepler. So after the eliminations, the boys say their goodbyes, and I'm really not sure on the timeline here, but one day they're eventually woken by 101's Kim Jae-kwon, who asks them to do a sing-along together, and then go from a fancy meal with gifts and some samgyetang. It turns out some of these gifts were clues as to what the final mission was. Now, the final mission, apparently it's going to take place at Jamsil Arena with 7,000 members in the audience. I'm not sure if this is a live voting audience. And obviously the top 9 chairs are also there, so you're going to see the debut line. I feel like next week it's probably going to be the final episode. I feel like that's what they mean by finale. But on American shows, the finale is not quite the finale, because there's finale and then there's another episode which is finale results. So we'll see. The 18, they'll be split into 9 groups to perform new original songs, Jelly Pop and Hot Summer. Now when I saw this, and when we found out that people will be voting on the killing part, I figure as long as Zhang Hao and Sung Han Bin are in separate groups, they might both just end up getting the killing part just based on their just like voting numbers. Now the final group, they're as follows. Everyone wants the killing part because of a lift up or light up LED entrance, but the audience chooses by way of some kind of online interaction. I guess this means the killing part will go to the most logistical fans rather than just home voters, because I'm not sure home voters do things like videos and stuff. In the meanwhile, Sung Han Bin and Matthew, they get the temporary killing parts, and I can say that a lot of trainees voted for Matthew because of external charms, obviously. But I felt Park Han Bin should have gotten it, both for merit and, the logical reasoning that he could teach the details to someone else in record time without impacting his own performance. Now, at this point, only voting power is relevant since sincerity rankings are all but evened out at this point. Yeah, we eliminated everyone who's like 3-star or lower, and everyone else has learned how to be a 4-star all-star. So let's just look at the voting power. Hot Summer has a score of 66, where 45 is the best you can possibly get, and 126 is the worst. So they're definitely very close to the top number, and I don't know if the live audience can change their final ranks at all, but just from the home voting alone, they should win it, without even performing well or not. There's just sheer millions on the side of trainees in Hot Summer, whereas in Jelly Pop, they're vote carried by Zach Howe maybe, and Matthew, he's from the top 9 as well, but that's mostly on the lower side. And after that, there's like hundreds of thousands of just differences. But in the top 5, there are millions of differences. Jelly Pop's score is a 105, which is quite close to the worst score, 126. So 20 points away from the worst, whereas Hot Summer is 20 points away from the best. And then they're 80 points away from the worst. And then the same in the other direction. I feel like Hot Summer just wins it hands down. Now, maybe some miracle happens, but I think the live audience votes for Hot Summer for hormone reasons. I don't even know what the benefit will be for each member of the winning team. So since individual scores will probably decide the top 9, the final top 9, I don't even really know what the benefit will be for each member of the winning team. But if the benefit exists and it's something like 500,000 points or more, that means the current weirdness can push out a top 9 character like Matt and replace him with Yoon Jong-woo. Now, alternatively, if Jelly Pop managed to win somehow with the benefit amount, it would cost Ricky his top 9 spot, which would go to Lee Ho-Tech. But all this depends on the benefit amount, and I think the reason Mnet might be keeping it a secret and not saying what it is because as long as it remains unknown, it actually gives them a way to rig the results from the 6th place to the, 13th place, or 15th place maybe. But if the final performances have no benefit, and a lot of people think that it has no benefit, then if the votes don't change, then we have our current top 9 anyways. But in that case, I feel like the biggest wildcard is going to be votes. If those ranks from 19 to 28 move their votes to people from 1 to 18, that can potentially give enough votes to 1 or 2 more members to knock out the 8th to 9th position, which basically means Ricky and Matthew may be in the biggest danger. If you have a favorite, I do recommend not splitting your vote, because the difference in votes between safe and unsafe here is basically like a 5 to 10% amount, where splitting the votes negatively impacts them by 50% of that vote. And so you're basically handing it to another member with a stronger single pick, and you're endangering both of your picks if you split it between 2. If you split it between 3, then I guess that's even worse. But honestly, I don't know what's the deal with people voting more than once, but I guess if they let you do it, or if you have some method of doing it, like you have multiple phones or something, then I don't know how you live with yourself with that in terms of your integrity, but yeah, you should definitely not split your vote if you have a favorite. Now, out of the top 18, I feel like Lee Ho-Tech would be the one who could have strong single picks, but I don't know if anyone else but maybe Park Gun-wook could also do it. But I guess that's like just speculation at this point. I don't really know, and I guess that's pretty much all I can say about it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comment section down below. Finally, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.